All right, Mama Bear on YouTube asked last week, how do you talk to someone who says they are a Christian, but in the same breath says Halloween is their favorite holiday? How do you get across to them that this isn't a good thing?
Oh, you know, basically, I don't spend a lot of time on that stuff. There, if I'm having a conversation with somebody who is a good friend, then I might take the time to have a talk about that. But there are so many other things to talk about that's usually where I put my focus. So anytime that Halloween comes up, it's one of those things that Christians like to talk about, and they like to talk about the pagan origins, which there are pagan origins to Halloween, and that kind of thing. And obviously, I don't want to be involved with paganism on any kind of pagan practices and that kind of situation. But one of the things that I need to keep in mind is when somebody is doing Halloween, they're not practicing paganism for the most part, unless they're a witch. They're involved in Wicca and that kind of thing. That's when they would be involved in paganism. So your run-of-the-mill unbeliever who's going out and dressing up like Superman or something is not, turning against Christ and trying to worship a false god. And so I think that sometimes we put too much emphasis on the wrong syllable. And if I was going to talk to somebody about Halloween, I would probably use it as a springboard to talk to them about Jesus. And so, if somebody came up to me and said, Halloween's a pagan thing, and what do you think? Should I be practicing that and that kind of stuff? I'd go through all the, some of the stuff with it. But even more importantly, I would talk to them about the fact that you don't do pagan things doesn't make you okay with God. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes you okay with God is, do you have a relationship with Christ? It's the same thing with any other thing that unbelievers do. I had some good buddies of mine that, I had been witnessing. I'd known them for about a month. I'd been witnessing to them. And they both come up a month later, and they'd been living with their girlfriends. And on the same day, they tell me that they're getting married. And I'm like, well, congratulations, that's really awesome. And I'm sure your girlfriend really appreciates that. You do realize that's not getting you to heaven, don't you? And I was in construction, and so that's how the conversation could go. And I didn't have to be all that subtle. And they were fumbling over their words at that point, because that's exactly what they were thinking. They were thinking that because they were doing something good or something religious, that it made them okay with God. And so, most times when I look at the things that the church does, we should be known for the things that we believe in, not for the things that we don't believe in. It should be more about what we preach than what we preach against. And obviously, this is Steve Winery here. I don't have a problem with preaching against nonsense and that kind of stuff. And so around here, when Halloween comes up, we use it as an opportunity to share the gospel with little kids who want candy. And so we encourage people who come, the people in our fellowship who come to this, not to wear weird pagan costumes and stuff, to dress up in something that's more biblically minded. And part of the reason for that is, obviously you don't want to be involved in that, but another part of the reason for that is so we know the kids that are coming from non-Christian families. And so we use it to pass out candy for the kids to play games. We call it a harvest party. And my thinking behind that is that Satan doesn't get to have a day. I don't care I don't care what he's decided he's got. Nobody gets to give Satan a day. The earth is the Lord's and all the fullness thereof. And so instead of railing against the darkness, what we do is we turn a light on. And so lots of kids have gotten saved during our harvest party. Lots of families have been influenced. We've had families who've come to church and come to our school because of the harvest party. And many of those families have come into a real relationship with Jesus Christ. And so, again, I don't want to be involved in any of the pagan nonsense, but the Bible does not say thou shalt not dress up in a costume. As a matter of fact, the Jews during Purim do exactly what we do during Halloween.
Really?
Yeah, they dress up in costumes. So I'm over in Israel this one time with my tour guide is a good friend of mine, and we're on over there during Purim, which is the celebration of the deliverance of the Jews in the book of Esther. And so we're over there during Purim, and he comes to the tour, and he's wearing a diaper, and he's got like a little, those little hats that little babies wear, and he's holding a baby bottle. And he's dressed up like a little baby. And his kids come in other costumes, and it's because it was Purim. So, I don't know where that custom came from, but
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
On a side note, I was just in Delos today, and they already have the Christmas decorations out. Stinking September.
He's saying that because every time we talk about Halloween, we talk about the fact that the Christmas decorations come out before Halloween.
Yeah. But on that note, though, and it took me, this is me speaking, I'm not reading into your question, whoever you are, but it took me a little bit to understand that, because when I first got saved, I was passionate about cleaning up my life and all the areas of my life and Halloween, and and I think it's more of a major thing that you can see versus a spiritual undertone or whatever. But when I look at the mature believers, like Chuck Smith and pastors and guys that have been doing it for 30, 40 years, they never get involved in those little things.
Yeah.
Right? They're always like, who is Jesus? Where are you at with him?
Right.
And of course, if you have an opportunity to witness to someone through a liberty and stuff because you have a personal relationship, then God can use anything and pray about it and stuff. But they never get bogged down by all the little side things.
Right.
It's always focused.
Yeah. It needs to be about Jesus. So that's why I was saying I don't usually get into those conversations. Actually, I talk more about Halloween with Christians than I do with non-Christians.
That's funny.